So today we're going to be featuring a video from one of my favorite creators and good friend, Matt Randolph. You probably know him as Mr. Global. He is a recognized oil and gas expert. He's also an independent voter. And recently he came under fire from some people in his own crowd for admitting that back in 2020 he didn't vote for Joe Biden. Instead, he wrote in a third party candidate. And so he got a lot of heat for that. And this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I really feel like that people on our side who share the same values and principles should really stick together during these uncertain times that we're in. So I'm going to give Mr. Global the floor here and let him explain why he came to that decision back in 2020. And then I'm going to talk more about why we need to stick together today in 2025. So, Mr. Global, take it away.
Hey guys, Mr. Global here. I wanted to talk to you guys about something today, a little more personal. This isn't going to be my typical news and politics type content. I'm a globally recognized oil and gas expert, for those of you that don't know me. Not going to be talking about that today either. I'm going to talk about something. I've been getting a lot of flack for the last few days because in the 2020 election, I did not vote for Joe Biden. I voted for an independent candidate. And a lot of people have said a vote for an independent is a vote for Donald Trump. And I completely understand where you're coming from. Now, let me explain to you what my thought process was when I was trying to decide who I was going to vote for. My thought process was I really wanted to vote for Joe Biden. I did. I really did. But he was a 78-year-old man. And I was convinced that no matter what, he would try to run for a second term. I was not super happy with the fact that we have a lot of elderly people running the country right now who are, not really in touch with the needs that this country, the things this country needs today. They're largely out of touch. And I'm not saying Joe Biden was out of touch. I'm just generally opposed to putting 78-year-old people in office. But another thing I also felt was that a vote for Joe Biden was essentially going to be a vote for Donald Trump 4 years down the road. I felt very strongly that if I voted for Biden and that if Biden won, Donald Trump was going to get back in office. And there's something else you have to understand. Where I live, you have to vote for president. If you don't vote for the president of the United States on your ballot, then none of your ballot counts. They kicked the whole thing out. So, not that I wasn't a fan of Joe Biden or had any issues with Joe Biden. I wanted someone younger. And I felt like the party really put all of its efforts into Joe Biden to just secure that one victory and weren't looking forward to the future. I really felt like any of the Democratic or independent candidates, maybe not any of the independent candidates, but I really felt like any of them could beat Donald Trump because of his response to COVID, basically because of his whole presidency, but really his response to COVID, what was happening with the economy. He was way underwater. I felt like we could have got a better candidate. I might be wrong about that, but I just felt like anybody could have beat Donald Trump. In addition, I knew the struggles that the next administration was going to have trying to rebuild the economy coming out of COVID. And I knew that no matter how good of a job they did, that they were going to be getting hammered by the opposition. As a globally recognized oil and gas expert, I understand global supply chains very intimately. I understand this stuff very well. I saw the inflation coming. I saw the shortages coming. I saw the super high gas prices coming. I saw all of this coming. And I just thought, who best can handle this, not just from a policy perspective, but on a messaging perspective? Who is best to fight back against the accusations that are going to be made against the Democratic Party because of all of the things that are going to be happening? So I chose to vote for an independent because I had to vote for somebody in order for my ballot to count. And I don't understand why I'm getting so much flack for that. You know what I mean? I made a well researched and conscious decision. And oh, by the way, here we are. Donald Trump is the president again, just as I predicted. Now, that's not to say that Joe Biden didn't do a great job. I think Joe Biden did a great job. He passed a lot of major legislation that's going to help us. But he didn't do the one most important thing. He did not defend his policies well enough in the public space so people could understand why food prices were so high, why gas prices were so high. He didn't defend himself very well at all. The messaging was very poor, and that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And because of that failure in messaging, I think that helped also put Donald Trump back in office. I've said a lot of great things about Joe Biden, and I'm also critical of it when it's deserved. And that's what an independent does. An independent tries to take a fair and balanced look at the candidates, criticize them for the things they should be criticized for. I will never be that person that just blindly follows someone and never criticizes them for anything. Even though I am an independent, I readily admit that I identify significantly more with people on the left and their values. That being said, people on the left also attack me all the time for being a centrist, for being more moderate. It's like sometimes you just can't win with people. You know what I mean? But one thing you will always get from me is well-researched and well-thought-out opinions on what's happening. Not any fluff, not a lot of hyperbole. I try to think and speak as logically as possible because I think the number one enemy of the United States today is misinformation, and we are flooded with it from all sides. We just are. And so I have made it my mission the past few years on social media to debunk as much misinformation as possible, most of it about the oil and gas industry, but that has now expanded into a lot of other things. And one thing you'll get from me that I think my followers understand is that no matter what I'm talking about or no matter what I'm saying, no matter what social media platform I'm on, you are hearing from me what I believe to be 100% true, and that it comes from a well-researched, fact-based point of view. I pride myself on that because I think it is a very rare quality, especially today, especially in social media and the broader news media. So I don't apologize for my vote. I don't criticize other people for their vote, and I'm not going to apologize for mine. I made a decision based on what I thought was the best decision for this country, a well-researched, well-thought-out, thoughtful decision. And by the way, I did vote for Kamala Harris in 2024. And unfortunately, all the things I feared in 2020 about Donald Trump getting back in office came true. Anyway, that's who I am. That's what I wanted to say today. Wish you guys the best. Hope you have a great day. Hope you enjoy my channel. If you have any thoughts or anything, any questions, anything, please feel free to send me a message. I'm always looking for new things to talk about and new content. I love having dialogue with my followers and subscribers. It's really why I do this. I've always wanted to be an educator, and now here I am later in my life educating the masses on the things I know about, just mostly oil and gas. But I do hit on a lot of news and politics. Thanks, guys.
You know, folks, you really do have to respect someone who makes their decisions based on facts and who prides themselves on putting out fact-based content, especially these days when people will just throw anything out there at the walls to see what will stick. So I have a lot of respect for Mr. Global. I've learned a whole lot from him about the oil and gas industry, and there's times that he has takes that I don't fully agree with, but I don't feel like throwing him under the bus. I don't feel like walking away from him, and I think that's something that our side really needs to get away from. I've said so many times times here on the channel, we are not going to always agree with one another. There's times that we are going to disagree. But if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, I had a lot of the same feelings and a lot of the same emotions about Joe Biden back in 2020 that Mr. Global did. I had some of the same thoughts. I remember talking it out with my dad, and I was like, you know what? I wish the Democrats had more young blood. I wish they had someone else instead of someone who's been in government for so long, someone who's so closely connected with Obama. I just didn't think that he was a good idea to be the front runner. But that's where we were at that particular time. And I made my decision to go ahead and vote for Joe Biden because I did feel like that I would be throwing my vote away otherwise. So I can get both sides of the argument. I truly can. But to go back and throw stones at someone over a decision they made in the 2020 election after what we've lived through since and after what we're living through now, I think it's time our side gets away from that because, folks, we need independent voters, okay? And we need people that will challenge our way of thinking and make us look at things from a different perspective. And as long as they're coming with the facts and as long as they're well informed and coming at you with the truth of the matter, then there shouldn't be a problem. That's just really how I feel about it. So I have tagged Mr. Global's channel here in the description of this video. I highly recommend you check out his content. You can learn a whole lot. I know that I have, and I always thank him even when he has a take that is different from me or a thought that's different from me. There's been a time or two where I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that. And then a couple of weeks later, something would happen and I would catch myself going, yeah, that's kind of what Mr. Global was saying. So I just really feel like that this day and age where we're at now, we need to stick together because you can say whatever you want to say about MAGA, but there's one thing you got to say. They stick together. They're united. And they're united on the wrong side of history. So we need to stay united with good people on the right side of history and not throw each other under the bus at this point. So again, go follow Mr. Global, give his channel a subscribe, and let's keep sticking together and putting in the work we're going to need to do to beat this fascist authoritarian nightmare that we're now in.